Hello everybody, welcome to the class today. I'm Nolan Clark, and in this class we're going to be painting a close-up view of an aloe. It's going to be a fabulous lesson in shading as well as layering your acrylics in order to create awesome textures. So follow along and then I'll show you step by step how we do that. Alrighty, so if you're a patron, you can go and download the reference material. There's the photograph, there's a sketch template, and there's a tiled template as well. So I don't think today's painting is going to be too difficult. Nice shadings and stuff, but also I want to get us to work in some nice textures into this as well. And I think that'll add lots of interest into this painting. So what I do like about it is that it's nice and zoomed in, so you've got lots of drama and action because of that. So I'm quite looking forward to it. So I think let's go and take a look at the photo itself and just do a little bit of planning of what lies ahead. So you can see we've got lots of beautiful, vibrant colors going on. And you've gone from almost white kind of colors over here through to as good as black here and here and here. So there's the full spectrum of colors in this painting. So we definitely want to work all those guys in, all those nice contrasts, because it's those contrasts that's going to make this guy look vibrant and alive. And then, like I say, I want to work in some nice textures. If you zoom in, you can see all these, it's got lots of little texture lines and stuff. And I think we can play that up a little bit today to give this just some extra zing in the painting. Just a little bit of extra drama. So when painting this, I think what we'll do is we'll get the base color down and then we'll add all those textures down over it. Because I think especially if we zoom in on this leaf over here, can you see you've got colors sort of underneath and then you've got the lighter texture coming in over it. You can see it nicely there as well. You've got the greens and stuff and then the white little stripy texture coming over it. And when I paint, I usually try and mimic nature, because who am I to argue with nature? Nature knows better than I do. So I'll do what nature does, and then it usually comes out. That usually comes out right. Alrighty, so the first thing we need to do is let's go and mix some of those colors. So the paints that I've put out today is sap green. He's definitely the majority color in the mix there. And then to lighten him up, I'll use some cadmium yellow and titanium white. And then to darken up, we can either use French ultramarine, and I think another one would be good to use would be Paynes Grey. So if you've got that, you can zip him out as well. And then two more colors on these little, on the thorny bits. On those little thorns over there, we've got like a orangey burnt sienna kind of color. So I have put out orange and burnt sienna. And we'll see which one of those works the best. But for now, all we're interested in is just blocking in the canvas, almost like you can think of that initial layer that we're going to do now as, suppose in a sense, an underpainting. So there's tons of green, so I'm going to have to put out a good dollop of sap green. I think I'll just finish up that tube, squeeze the tacks out of him. We're probably going to need some more, but that's alright. That's good enough for now. And let's get a fair amount of titanium white over there as well. Yeah, I seem to be on the end of all these tubes of mine today. And now we need something darker as well. So let's maybe bring some of this one side. Let's try the ultramarine and let's see how he goes. So I'll put a dollop of that down over there. That's probably a bit much, but anyway, I can always put him back in the tubes, not a problem. And let's just pop some of that in here and let's see what happens to that color. Let's see how dark it gets us. Yeah, quite like that. That's starting to hit towards a nice little mid, sort of a mid-dark tone. Alright, so let's do that. Let's split this guy up again. That gives us a bit of a darker guy. And I'll always try and bear in mind that he's going to darken up even more as we go along. Yeah, I think let's put that, leave that over there. Let's do it another way. Let's put down some ultramarine. And then we just bring some green into it. Yeah, it's not too shabby, eh? So with acrylic, he always dries a little bit darker than what you think he is. So I'm going to just take some of that just to test. Just put it here on the paper. Because on the face value, he seems nice and dark. And he's still got nice, that little bit of green haze to him, you know. So let's zap him with a hairdryer just to confirm that. So that he's still going to have that little bit of a greenish look when he's dry. Yeah, they're still looking good. Not too much of a difference there. Awesome, I'm happy with that. And then let's get a lighter version. So let's put some cadmium yellow down. I think I'm going to put 2 piles of cadmium yellow down because you've got times where you're probably going to want to use the neat cadmium yellow. Just to lighten things up as we go. So I'll also just take a little bit of this, just pop it in there. Let's see how we go with that. Yeah, that looks nice and vibrant, like you see on these edges around here and here. That's probably heading towards good colors for that. Yeah, let's leave it at that. Okay, so we've got ourselves 1, 2, 3, 4 greens there. So it's quite warm here by me today, so I'm going to instantly just spray the palette with some water to keep those colors from dying on me. Awesome. Alright, so I have sketched out my my outlines onto the canvas. I'm working on a 12 by 16 inch canvas today, which is roughly 400 by 300 millimeters. Not milliliters. And the brushes I've got here, there's a 1 inch just a pastry brush or a hardware brush. There's a really manky old bristle brush, which is probably 3/4 of an inch. That's probably about I don't know, just less than half an inch there on that guy. And then there's a small little bristle brush. And then just a few little round brushes. That one, that one, a rigger brush. And then of course my trusty old soft filbert. I always back him out by default. But I think for now we'll use this guy. And then let's start off using the paints as they are. If we find that they're not quite spreading well enough, then what we can do is we can just move them down by adding some water to that. Right, so what I'm going to do is just start at the back and you work your way forward so that you can get that overlapping right. You paint the back guys so that when you come to the front, their lines overlap. Then you don't have to try and squeeze the background in between all the front guys. You can actually go slightly over the line and then you crisp the line up with when you paint the front guys. And what I think I'll also do is just maybe darken up the back guys a little bit more than what I see them on the photo, simply because I want to get full contrast. I want these guys to be the highlight of the show, not those back guys. They must sort of make these guys stand out, and these front guys have the nice sunlight on them. And at this stage, I'm just trying to get just the canvas covered. And I'm happy for it to be slightly stripy. I'm going to paint in the direction that these aloe leaves go. So that way the stripiness follows the shape of the leaf. Then the stripiness that you get is just going to look perfectly natural. Right, so like here in this area there's quite a few little leaves and things in there. So all we can do really with that is just work in just a few contrasts. Let's maybe take some of this. Just add a line there and then just gently blend him outwards like that. In other words, we're going to suggest some details over here, but not much. There's quite a brightish one, so I'll just nick a little bit of, just a little bit of white. But I'm not cleaning the brush. You can see it's still pretty dirty. Fade him downwards like that. Yeah, and that should be enough for those guys over there. Right, so now I do have white on the brush. I do see there's a sort of a bit of a lighter area, so maybe we can take a bit of green into that without cleaning the brush. And let's see, while we've got this on the brush, where else do we see that color? I can see some of it in this vicinity down here. So at this point, I'm not shy going over the lines. As long as I can make out where those lines still are, I'm happy with that. It's more important that you get these, the texture and the lines inside this going past the front leaves, so that when you bring the front leaves in, they overlap. Okay, there's a little bit darker again, so I've just wiped off the excess paint off my brush like this, just to get most of it gone. I can't see us washing our brush too often today because there's just literally variations of green really in this whole painting. Okay, while we're down here, I've just picked up a little bit of a darker color. Get a sharpish line over there to separate that leaf and this one over here. There, a little bit of white. So maybe, just at this point, let's go over to that camera, then I can zoom in on an area over here, just so you can see the kind of texture that I'm getting. Let's go to there. That's that first little piece. Can you see I've left it quite stripy? I'm happy for this shadings and stuff over here. They don't have to be perfect. Is that nicely focused? Let's check him. Yeah, that's better, right? Can you see how that bit of line and stuff over there? Alrighty, let's continue. Alrighty, where next? We've got there, that's way at the back over there. And then we've also over here, here's an extra leaf over there, and he's also quite white with a little darker edge. So let's stick to the white. We've got quite a bit of that still on the brush. And this leaf is running in this direction. You can go lighter than that. Again, I'm just using flicks and things, and quite happy getting a bit of a a stripy texture in over there. Just leave it at that. Here's a slight little edge on that. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to come slightly over the line to make sure that you've covered all the canvas. And I can see there is a dark edge on that, and that's the kind of stuff that we'll do now afterwards. All I want to do is just get rid of that white of the canvas. There's a little darker spot, so this brush is probably just a touch too big. So let's maybe do that with a soft filbert. And I'm just roughly judging these colors. If I need to just mix up a little in-between color, I'll do that. The way you get like there, just to show that that's two separate leaves, just make sure that you get a hard and a sharp line between the two. We don't know what direction this guy is going in, so I'm going to just put him in any old direction. Luckily it's a small area, so it doesn't really matter too much. Yeah, that's nice and quick, loose and free. And I think now that we've got this and we've got a darker color on it, we may as well do that guy's edge and then he's done. Before we forget about him. So I'm just going to take the soft filbert, and the way I pick up the paint is, look, I'm putting it up on the brush like this, turning him 180 degrees, pick up the paint again, because that's now giving us this beautiful sharp chisel edge. And I'm just going to very gently run that chisel edge along there until I see he breaks up and it becomes a wider line. Then I'll pick up some more paint. Right, so now over here he is broadening, so I'm going to put him down and then just very gently fade him towards the inside of the leaf over there. Yeah, that should do the trick over there. Alrighty, I'm washing the soft filbert because I'm seeing there's just in that corner, there's just a tiny amount of another leaf shining through. Maybe it's the bottom of this one. Let me see if I can show you that. Can you see over here? There, just that little bit extra that's shining through there. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of this white here. and just add a thin little triangle in there just to suggest that. I'm just fiddling here with the positioning of these guys ever so slightly just to get them more accurate so that you can see the whole picture the whole time. Alright, let's get rid of the worst of the paint off our pastry brush. And we'll move up to over there. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, here's also still another one. He's got a short little shading over there, so that's this color over here, and then he fades towards a bit of a white. So let's just blend that darker color a little bit more upwards. And I think I'm going to get this here reasonably dark because he's now silhouetting this lighter guy that's in front here. So let's make sure that he's now got nice contrast against him. Okay, we can wipe off the excess and go over to the white. Let's get that top edge over there. And this guy's quite close, so I'm also going to get a nice sharp line over here. Once that top line is nice and sharp, just do a quick little blend in over there. Yeah, that's fine. Alrighty, now we can move up to over there. So this guy is quite dark, so I think I'll actually start with this second darkest color. And let's pop that down around here. Let's get that, the edge between him and the previous guy nice and sharp. And let's get this edge over here nice and sharp. So you will find that the sap green does tend to be a little bit transparent. So if you do need to, and you find you're getting it a little bit too stripy, then what you can do is just hold your brush, instead of using the tips like this, use the length of the bristles. And that's going to help you get it a bit more smoother. At this point I'm not too panicked. I'm getting it reasonably solidly covered. But there is still some stripiness there. That's great. So if you're scared to lose these front lines, you can also just run just a line of masking tape to mask them off if you want to. That'll help you not have to aim so much. But like I say, what I tend to do is I get a nice sharp line like that. Now, as I work in a bit of texture into this, so let's take say some of this. Just a bit of sap green into the lighter green, a touch of white, just to get that bit of a texture on this back guy. So I do want to get some texture on there, so I'm just taking that and I'm looking at the directions of those texture And I'm just going to gently drag it over there like this. But now, can you see I can come over that line over there? Like that. And he's still visible because you made that initial line nice and sharp. So I do just want to get a bit of a shading on this guy. Lighter over here, darker to there. Just to show that he's round like this. Then in that corner over there, we want to get it really dark, because what happens is the light can't get in there. Let me demonstrate that. If you take your hands like this and push them together, can you see here it's nice and bright, but over there it's quite dark. Let me put the overhead light off and you'll be able to see that better. Can you see that? It's light over here and it's dark over there because the light can't get in there. And that's the same thing as happening over there. You've got this kind of an effect. So you've got the front leaves, they are here. They're catching lots of light. And now look how dark it is over here, and it's going lighter out to there. Can you see that? Darker on the inside and lighter on the outside. And that's the effect that we're getting over there. So I'm going to pick up some of my darkest green. Let's get him into this corner over here. Use a smaller brush to get into that corner if you need to. So I'm going to carefully get that nice and dark and nice and solid. You're not going to see any texture in the dark areas. Texture happens in the light area. So I'm going to almost plaster the paint on a little bit over there to get it really nice and thick and dark. Alrighty, so now we can shade this guy out. So I'm going to fade him out using strokes like this in this direction and opposite across the width of the leaf. Like that. Great. Now that we've got the dark, where else can we use it? There in this corner over here. It's super dark over there. And these darks are super important because they're the guys that add there's a saying which says you can't have bright lights without dark shadows. In other words, you need really dark darks to make your bright colors look bright. So otherwise there's nothing to contrast against. Okay, that's nice and dark. Where else? Here's a few little things happening over here. So here's around that vicinity there. There's a really dark area, which then does shade lighter. So I'll put a little bit of that in over there. And there is some over here, but we'll have to shade that as we go. And then here, there's also a dark leaf over there. It's not quite as dark as this, but I'm going to use my artist license and just darken that up. It just adds that extra contrast for this front leaf over here. And he's going in that direction, so I'll just get it a little bit stripy in that direction there, like that. Okay, let's fade that guy before that paint dries. So I think I'll use just a neat sub green. But I won't clean the brush or anything like that. Let's get ourselves a sharp line over there to get separation between those two. Bring those two colors next to each other and just fade them into each other, going up and down, rub up and down like that. That's fine. Let's see what's going on over there. There it's nice and dark, so we go back to the dark guy over there. Let's get that in there. I think there we can actually even go back to the soft filbert, because that's going to allow us to get into that little corner easier. And the soft filbert also gives you a nice solid, flat, even layer of paint. So that gets that nice and dark over there. Like that. I'm going to leave that little gap because there's a bit of a oranginess happening there. We do want to show that because that just adds, one of those things that adds interest. There. And all the way around the outside of this guy over here. It starts off super dark. And then he fades lighter. So let's get that in. Awesome. And then this leaf over here, he also tucks in underneath another one. So he starts off super dark over there too. So let's put him in. Alright, now we need to quickly fade all this stuff before the paint dries on us. Yeah, it's quite small, so I think I'll go over to just this bristle brush. And let's see, maybe just some neat sap green again. Let's get ourselves a sharp edge over there to show that there's two different leaves meeting each other. And then we can do this shading over here. So I'm using very, very gentle pressure on the bristle brush. Very gentle. Okay, so there's that guy. Let's do the same thing over here. So I'll stick with the sap green. Let's get that on that edge over there. And get that on that edge over there. Nice and solid. And a nice straight line over there. And over there. Cool, let's blend those guys into each other. I need to pick up just a little bit of the dark guy. He's not enough. Just so there's physically more paint there that can blend. Okay, just blend gradually outwards. So go to the left, and then to the right, and then back to the left, and then to the right, in just overlapping strokes. And that's how you get nice, even shadings. Yeah, that's fine. I think that's given us a bit of juice over there. So his texture, I can see the leaf is running in this direction, but we first need to just get that looking in effect. That's going down like this. So we'll leave that to dry, and then when it's dry, then we can come back in and just add those texture lines. Patty's asking if I'm working acrylic paint. Yes, I'm working in acrylic paint today. If you're painting in oil, you can do this whole section as is, but you'll have to wait for the paint to dry before you continue to the next section. So you can paint along in oil, no problems. Okay, let's go over here. Okay, now take a look. This is darker than that. Can you see there? Look really carefully and you'll see that this is lighter. So I've gone over and I've used this paint instead of that one for my darkest. Get that nice sharp edge for the front guy over there. Over here, you can use a smaller brush if you want to. Carefully bring those guys up in a sharp line. I know there's little thorns and stuff over there, but just initially, just a straight line is fine. Okay, we can bring this out a little bit further, like that. Cool. Let's use our sap green. Let's start lightening this up. Even maybe just a touch of the, just a tiny touch of the lighter green over here. Just to show that he's starting to peep his head out and pick up just a touch of sun, this guy. I think if we could see the rest of him, he would be bright. And that's giving us a nice little looking in effect over there. So again, he's one of those guys where we can't just turf that logo for a second so you can see what's going on there. You see it's brighter over here, then darker to there, and darker to there. So that makes him stand upright. So if we could see that what's over there, he would be full sunlight. But now we can't. Alright, let's take a look. Let's do that. A little bit over there. So that's sort of a yellowy, orangey kind of look to it. So I'm just cleaning this brush. And let's take a look. What if we pick up just a little bit of yellow on the brush? Like this. Is that getting us to that color? Not quite. It's a bit browner. So it probably needs just a little bit of burnt sienna. So we'll put just a spot of it over there. Just pick up a tiny dash. Work it into this color and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And you can see we don't need much, eh? Just a little line. So that should be enough. So I'll put that line down over there. It just seems to sort of curl like that and then go out the picture over there. So to make him just blend in, I'm going to put him down as a solid line on this side. But on this side, I'm going to give him just a quick little shading, but super quick. You can even, if the paint's still nice and wet, you can even use your finger. For that blending over there. Great, let's see what else is. So we're now gradually working my way up. So we've done those bottom ones. Now there's a leaf, and then there's a leaf, and then we can get onto our main guys. Alright, let's take a look at this guy over here. He's quite small, not much to him. He seems to be starting off with some neat sap green. So let's put that down over there, get a nice sharp edge. It's a fun painting so far, eh? There's nothing stressful. Let's work some white into that. So just pick up white on the paintbrush till you see you've got a nice little whitish color over there. Let's get that sharp edge over here. That's cool. Now we can blend these guys into each other. Okay, so now remember, this is just something that's being overlapped by that. So this is something I want to actually demonstrate. Let me get a piece of paper. Because this is quite important, and it's a classic mistake the guys make. And let's get just a Sharpie. Alrighty, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to just simulate 2 leaves. So there's one leaf and there's the other leaf. So we now have that texture on the leaf doing this. Let's do the same on the other guy. But now these 2 leaves are at different angles. This guy is standing at that angle. This guy, he's coming out at that angle. So can you see what's happening? You've got those lines and these lines are at different angles because of that. But now, when you're shading this, you tend to work along this one's line, hey? Because that's just the way you need to do to not go over this line. And that's why we initially put that in really nice and sharp. Then you come back in afterwards and you go over that line and you get this direction right. This direction that we showed over here. And that's how you get these guys to look natural, as though one is going behind the other, is because those angles are different. Yeah, fabulous. Alright, let's see. I think we can still do this guy as well, hey? So he does start off light and then he goes darker, and we do have light on the brush. So we'll paint him in reverse. We'll start with the light color and we'll gradually go darker. So I'm just picking up more and more white into that to get it as light as what I can. It's pretty light over there. We'll see. Let's get ourselves a nice little contrast and a sharp, straight contrast line over there. Well, not straight, curved, but a nice sharp, you know what I mean. A nice sharp line. Okay, he's light and then he's quickly going darker. So let's go into the sap green. This guy's got lots of texture as well. But I'm looking beyond that stripy texture now, because he's quite close. Let's get to that. And now he's going darker, so I'm gradually working some of the darker guy into there, like this. Yeah, let's get that mid dark, and we'll run it all the way along this line over here, to get that sharp edge over there. Cool. And then we get some more of that around this vicinity. Over there. And then it's back to sap green for the rest. Yeah, like that. And then we need to go very dark in that corner. But I think while we've got these mid-tony kind of colors on the brush, let's fade them into each other. So I'll get rid of the excess paint, just so that we can blend whatever's on the canvas. So let's maybe start over here. Just very gently work those guys into each other, just to form a continuous shading running along this direction like that, going in. Yeah, that's probably as good as that's going to get over there. Okay, I'll wipe off the excess again. Because now over here we need to blend these guys into each other. And they need to be blended in a different direction. Let's see, what have we got? Some of that. So I can feel my paint is now starting to get tacky. It's not flowing as nicely as it was before, and that's my cue to give my palette another spray. That tells me the moisture that was lying there is now evaporated. And that's why these paints aren't blending so nicely. I'm just going to use my finger and just tap. And that should help us get that little shading happening over there. Yeah, that's good enough. By the time we've added all sorts of textures onto that, it'll look fine. Alrighty, get rid of the worst again, because now we need to go to our darkest color. Make sure you get that inside bit nice and solid. No texture or anything, it must be solid. And then as we come out, now we can blend him in again. So I'll take off the excess. Just blend what's on the canvas. So if you're using the same brush for a long time, like we have here, it's also good to just, if you feel your paint and stuff is starting to get tacky with the acrylic, the paint on here is now also tacky. So what you want to do is wash your brush to get rid of that dry paint. Because that dry paint, even though you've freshened up your paint on the palette, it's still, how would you call it, tacky on the brush itself. So I'll wash the brush, but then I'll dry them off like really well on just an old t-shirting material, just to soak that up. An old tea towel would also work quite well. I often use them. Are you starting to see a bit of a picture here? I think so. Alright, so there's just a little corner that I can see I haven't quite covered, so I'm going to have to cover him first. Before we start with the front guys. Okay, let's start with the front guys. And again, I'll start with whatever's at the back. He's at the back, then him, and then him. So I've got sort of sap green on my brush here at the moment. It's a little bit darker than sap green, so I'm just mixing an in-between color between the sap green and the mid dark. And that seems to be what we have in this vicinity around here. Maybe a little bit darker, eh? Let's maybe go to this mid green. Yeah, that's fine, and that seems to come up along here. So what we want to do with these guys, now we're seeing the whole length. So let me just blend that out so I can explain how that works. Just so there's no hard edges over there, just soft edges. Here's now the shape. And that shape is rounded like this. Maybe I'll use a paper that doesn't have the lines on it. So that guy is basically like this. So let me switch off the overhead light again, so that we only have side lighting. So that guy's sitting like this. So what you've got is you've got an area that's dark, like here, and then it goes gradually lighter. I think you can see it best over here. So because this is pointing more towards the light, and that's pointing more away from the light. So you've got that gradual tonal value change across the length of this guy. And that differs whether you whether the guy is convex or concave. You can see it nicely over here. Take a look at this guy. Can you see his lighter here is going darker towards those sides? These guys will be darker here and going lighter to those sides, because the one is concave and the other one is convex. So you have to look out for that, so that you can get those roundings and those shapes correct. Okay, so now we want to go lighter and lighter. So I'm going to just gradually add more of this, the highlight green into this. Get those edges nice and sharp. So you can see I'll slow right down when I get to these edges, because I want to make sure I get them nice and sharp and accurate. You don't want little bits of the canvas shining through over there. Great. So all we need to concentrate on now is just getting our tonal values right. We need to go darker here, now that we've got everything all blocked in. All the while I'm happy keeping him stripy, because that's now half of our texture that we need. Okay, now I'm going to get a little bit more of the neat, this little highlight color of ours. Let's get that running along here so we can get that contrast between there and here, because it's that contrast that's going to give us the distance. Okay, let's continue building this up. So how does this guy shade? He's like this, so it's lighter, lighter. So I'll start here on the outside edge and then work my way in, going slightly darker with the paint if I need to. And you can see as I do that, I'm just using the tip of the paintbrush. Yeah, that's as good as we're going to get for there for now, I think. Let's move on to the next guy. So we've got this yellowy color on the brush, so I'm going to start with that over there, because this little edge over here is that yellowy color, and it does sort of come down to around here, and then he starts getting darker. So I'll just go straight into the sap green, put that down. Oh, sorry guys, oh dear. Sorry about that. Alright, where did you not from... I showed you about the rounding, hey? So it was just the painting of this piece that you didn't see, hey? Alright, so basically what we're doing is now we're just adding these, the rounding of each guy. So you've got to take a look. Is it the edges that are lighter, or is it the center bit, depending on whether it's concave or convex? And I'm putting down just the right colors, the right places initially. And then when I blend them into each other, I'll just keep it nice and stripy along the length of the leaf. Sorry about that. I forgot to click the button, because I can see a preview and then I can see what's being sent out. And they're both the same size, so maybe what I should do is let's change that so that the preview and what's going out are different sizes. Then I'll look at the big one which is being sent out instead of the preview. So it's nice and dark over here. And you can see I'm keeping it stripy. I don't want to get these shadings nice and smooth. Alrighty, let's work these guys in, all in the direction of the leaf, so that any stripiness that we are getting is in the correct direction. So you have to sometimes look quite careful, quite closely, to make sure that you get these directions right. They're not always in the direction that you think they are, simply because of the curvature of the leaf. I don't think I'm getting quite dark enough over there, but I've got too much paint there now. It's not going to go dark enough, so we'll work that in there with just some extra layers afterwards. Cool, I think that one's good there. So we'll leave him at that. Let's go over to this guy. So I'm going to start. This is a very bright guy. So I'm going to start. I've cleaned off the brush, and I'm going to start with this bright guy over here. And let's lay that down. So this is an interesting one because we're seeing the inside and we're seeing the outside of it. So first just do the inside. Get a nice silhouette between him and the guys surrounding, so that the lighter thing, it's quite weird, a light thing always appears closer where a darker thing appears further away. I don't know why, it just is. Okay, so it seems to be reasonably light over here, and then it's going gradually darker towards the inside again because less light can get in there. And this one's interesting, it's got a beautiful sunlit layer over there that we can also work in. Quite looking forward to that. Okay, so I'm keeping this purposefully a little bit lighter than this guy over here, to make sure that you keep that contrast between the two. If you've got contrast, you've got distance. It's as simple as that, really. Yeah, so it goes through around here, and I'm going to just give myself that little place over there where the sunlight is. Okay, let's get some darker colors in here for this. Go over to a smaller brush here if you need to. So this little shading here is a little bit tougher than the rest because it's not just straight. You've got, it's happening in this direction and then it's happening in that direction and stuff. And I'll often just go over to using my finger to get that kind of blending sorted. To blend with your finger like this, you do now need a fair amount of paint on the canvas that can move around. See that finer blending over there? It just works quite nicely with the fingers. Okay, let's put some paint down over there. Pick up some paint on the finger and just blend these guys into each other. So what you do want to do here, because we've got this guy over here and he's also quite light, you have to use your artist license a little bit. I'm sure if you really look on the photo, you're going to see it. But you want to get that remember that curvature. So you've got darker here, lighter, and lighter. So it goes from light, dark, light. This guy's also going from light, dark, light. But now the dark and the light shading sort of happens behind this. So you just use your artist license and just add some shading over here. Even though it's not that obvious on the photo. But you do need to add some shading over there just to make this guy look round. If something is flat, it has a flat tonal value, flat color. If it's round, it has a shading. So without that little bit of a shading that you're putting in there, it's always going to be flat. Alrighty, let's see. I think we can go a little bit darker in this area over here. To get that nice little looking in effect over there. Go over to a lighter color. Let's just carry on shading this outwards. If you don't want to use your finger, you can just use a soft brush like this filbert. It'll also do the trick. It will also work nicely. And I want to get this dark just running along a little bit further down that center area over there. Just to, again, show that rounding. Is all this super smooth and perfectly blended? No, it doesn't need to be, because we've got all sorts of other textures that now still need to come in over this. Fabulous. Okay, let's get that guy in over there while we're at it. So I'm looking in between. This one's really textured, eh? So I'm looking in between all those textures. I'm looking at the underlying color. So the underlying color initially is this, here on this outside area, which seems to run something like that. Things are feeling slightly tacky. That's my cue to add some extra water onto the palette. Yeah, so all this area over here is in sunlight. So it's got that yellowy kind of color underneath that white texture. Yeah, seems to be fine. And let's see. Shadows running sort of like that. And then he stops. Okay, now we need to go over to a completely different color there, eh? For the shadowy bit. He seems to be sort of in between the sap green and the mid dark in this area over here. So I'm going to get a nice sharp edge over there. To show that shadow ends over there. Okay, so that's that. And then he is getting darker here towards this inside bit. So we will have to add a shading over there. Let's get that in. Alrighty, so I'm going to go over just to that mid-dark initially. Let's get some of that down over there. So some of these little areas are quite fine. So you can use your finger or you can use the brush. So let's use the brush this time, then you can see me doing both. So just little up and down shadings like this until these guys work into each other. Leave the last bit because he needs to go even darker. So this guy's also darker here in the center and lighter towards the side to show you the rounding. So I'm getting that dark green over there. And fade him out lighter towards the side. Like that. And also darker towards the inside. I'm literally just tapping with a brush over here to get that shading right. Okay, let's go over to our darkest. Let's get this little looking in piece over there right. So for now I'm keeping that a sharp edge over there so that I don't lose where the other leaf starts. Okay, and I'm just tapping this guy to get rid of that line over there. Very gentle. Yeah, that should do the trick. That's fine over there. Happy with that. So here, see, I've got a little bit of my canvas shining through, so I'm just touching that up. Don't want bits of canvas shining through. Awesome. Where we at? We've got to do this guy. So he's also the lightest green. So hopefully, if we added enough contrast over there, this will now show up and we can see our line. Yeah, we can. That's great. Okay, so we can tackle that guy. And I think he also does shade a little bit darker as he curls in underneath like that. So let's get that color worked in as best we can and as far as we can over there. And we go over to sap green. Let's also just add this sharp edge over there. And then we can blend those guys into each other. Alright. Alrighty, so we've now almost filled in the whole canvas. So that's your underpainting stage basically done. You think, oh my goodness, is this only the underpainting? But you'll find that the next stage actually goes quite quickly. This is the hard work. Alright, so there we do need now just need to work stuff in. So what I'm looking at here is the color that's underneath that white, and that also is this bright yellow. So to make sure that I don't lose where the bottom and the inside meet, I'm leaving just the tiniest amount of canvas visible. It's literally just one row of weave. Okay, let's keep this here still quite sharp. Over there as well. Let's see, that there needs to be dark and not light. Right, so I've got a sharp edge over there now. I'm just going to take my brush and just run it along that edge. So what that does is it just softens that edge up ever so slightly. It's not a shading, it's just softening up the edge, so it's not pin sharp anymore. Just like that. Because you'll find with the shadow, it starts off really sharp against the object, and then it quickly fades out. And we can see there's no distinct shadow. It's this guy is casting a shadow on over there. So the shadow would be super sharp over here, but as it gets to there, that little edge of the shadow is going to be softer. Cool, so I'm just washing another brush so that we can get that last little bit of sap green in over there. Okay, that'll do there. Last one. What color paint have we got on our brush at the moment? Sap green. Right, so let's start. The sap green is in these vicinities over here. So we'll put them in. Get our sharp edges. So take a look at this. As this guy curls up like this, the light is catching even different areas differently. So there's our highlight. It's darker over there. So now you need to look and compare which color is where. So this color is this one sort of mid-tone, where in this area, this color is the highlight. So this sap green of ours is going to go from here like this. And you can sort of say it splits up and moves to there. I think this sap green is now right up against the edge in this vicinity. like that. And that sub-green then comes around to around here. And from there, that goes lighter on that vicinity. And then down there, it goes darker. Here on either side of that, it does seem to be pretty much that white. And there's quite a lot of that white there. I'm not seeing too much of an undercolor, so I'm just going to take a little bit of the highlighty color to run him down there. Let's do a quick blend in over there, like that. Same on this side. Just to show there's a rounding, we do need to have the contrast. So in this area it's lighter on the outside, but in this area here it's lighter on the inside. Okay, so we've got the light on the brush. Let's put him down in his place. And it's a little bit more to this side than that side. You see that? So you've got the sun is coming a little bit more from here than here. A little bit more left to right. So I'll put that in, blend him into the side, and then just gradually blend him in towards the top. So it becomes nice and gradual. So you can almost think of it, you're blending in a circular motion. Here's sort of an in-between color, so I'm taking a little bit of sap green, a little bit of the highlight, popping that down there. Blend the sap green into this mid kind of color, and then you blend the mid color into the highlight. Yeah, that's cool. And then finally, this little shading over here. So first go for not the darkest color, the second darkest. So this is quite a quick shading. So I think I'll go over to just a smaller brush. Or you could use a finger, that'll also work. Just a really quick shading into these guys. As always, I'm happy leaving it a little bit stripy. And then finally the darkest color. So here's now an interesting thing that is going to happen. Here, with this guy, they all meet in that inside bit over there. It's so dark inside there that you can't tell where the one starts and the other one ends. So this darkest bit here is like a bit of a no man's land. So you blend it in towards the one leaf and the other leaf. There's no distinct line where they meet. So I'm blending it outwards like this. And I'm blending it inwards like this. Just to make sure I have a nice soft edge over there. Well, that one's got a little bit of a yellowy something on the inside over there, so I'm going to leave that. No, in fact, I think I'm going to blend that away anyway. We'll just add that little lighter bit over there. All this over here has to be dark like that. You've got to have that lost line. Otherwise it doesn't complete that looking in effect. So my paint is getting quite thick and the previous colors are a little bit tacky. So if that's happening to you, then fade it in as best you can and then leave it. Let it dry or nuke it with a hairdryer. Then you can come back and just add another layer. To get that shading right. Don't think you have to do it in one go. That's the beauty of acrylic. You just quickly dry it off and just go over it again until you get that shading nice and smooth in the way you like it. Alrighty, so our canvas is now covered. That's the hard work done. Well done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to dry this guy off with a hairdryer, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to wash the brushes as well. You do the same. Awesome. Okay, let's go back to the photo for a minute. And let's see, what do we need to do now? What we've painted so far is just the basic shape of the aloe, and that's given it our 3D look. So now we need to add two things to it. The first one is the texture that we see on the leaves. The second one is the sunlight. Let's go back to our painting and you'll see what I mean. We can see the depth and the 3D and stuff on the leaves, but it doesn't really look like there's much sunlight there yet, hey? And that's simply because we haven't really added that. The aloe has like a white, I don't know what you call it. Is it like a powder or something, or is it just a texture? But it's got that white on it. And that white is more pronounced the more sun that's falling on it. So you can see lots of it here where you've got, this guy is in full sunlight. So there's tons of that. So you can really, it's super pronounced over there. Over here as well, can you see it's almost white. Here there's less sunlight. So we can see less of that white kind of powdery look. And then here, where it's dark, there's very little of it. And there's nothing of it in the darks. So the more of that powdery look you're adding, the more sun you're actually adding into those areas as well. Quite interesting, eh? So let's do that. So the way I like to add this in is just mist off my palette here. I'm going to take pretty much white with touches of green in it, like we've been using before in areas like this. And then you're also going to take some white and yellow. So you're going to take white, you're just going to add just a little bit of yellow into it. That's also going to help you get some of those really sunny areas in as well. Often I'll even add just a little bit of green into that as well. So it's actually a very bright yellowy green. And the best brush to use for that is something like this. That's a little bit munted, where the hairs have spread out and stuff already. So if you don't have a brush like this, it's easy to make one. You just take it and you just smash it on the table. And there you go. You've got a munted brush where the hairs are nice and spread out. And that's going to give you a nice stripy effect. You see, when the hairs are like this, you're not getting that nice little stripy kind of effect. And then I'll also, to get a nice stripy effect, the paint needs to be reasonably thin. So what I do is I actually dip the brush into the water. So let me just show you. I'm dipping the brush into the water, and then I'm just wiping it off like this, just to get rid of the excess. And then I'll pick up the paint. And if you find if it's still too watery, then use your cloth. Dip it in the water, just use your cloth to soak up that excess. And another way of doing it is you pick up your paint, then you take your paper towel and just wipe off that the physical drops and stuff that are on there. You just want this guy to be damp, and you're gonna use that now to create some texture. So when I'm starting with this, I'm not sure what this brush is going to do. You don't want it to start off and give you harsh lines and then it's too much, and then you've got a problem. You have to go and repaint the stuff. So I'm going to look for what's the harshest area over here. In this case, it's over there. So I'm going to start over there. And that'll get me just into the swing of how my brush is adding these lines. Are they too much? Are they too little? If they're too much, then I'm going to just soften that up or thicken my paint. If it's not coming off in nice little stripy lines, then your paint is going to be too thick. So then you need to add a little bit more water. It's a little bit of a balancing act to get this right. But once you get that right texture of the water, then you'll find it works quite nicely. So super light touch. And now you have to really look carefully at the directions of these lines. And like I say, in the beginning it takes a little while just to get into the swing of it until you've got your textures and everything right. But after that, it'll start going quicker and quicker. So like I say, you have to now really look carefully at these directions, because these directions follow the contour of your leaf. So what I'll often try when I'm first starting out is I'll try the brush like this, and I'll try it like this. I'll try it on this side or this side. You'll often find that even just one side of the brush ironically works better than the other side. If you find you have to press hard to get this effect, then your paint is too thick. You don't want to use any pressure on your brush whatsoever. Okay, now once you've got the hang of it, now just take a look and see how much of these lines do I need. For example, over here I can see I need more because it's in sunshine over here, less in the center, and then a little bit more on this side again. And you'll see I've gone into the dark there. That's fine. You want these streaks and stuff, go in over there. We'll finalize that using a glaze when we come in and do all the little finishing touches and stuff. What you also have to bear in mind is that the paint that you're painting on now is also going to just, as it dries, it sort of settles in and becomes less prominent. So here's something interesting. You've got, I think when this guy was still growing, it was curled over, and it looks almost like you've got little thorn marks over here. You can see it on that one as well. You've got some thorn marks. So we'll work those in as well, I'm sure. I think that'll be a nice, interesting thing there. Alrighty, so this guy over here, this is where it's full sun. So yeah, I think I'll even use some of that, the yellow. So then if you saw that, just to make sure that these guys stay separated, I've picked up the paint and then I've smashed my brush onto the palette to make sure that they're nice and separated like that. So it is a new color, so I'm just getting rid of all that excess water that's on there so that I can first see what's going on here. A new color paint is going to give you a new texture because the paint consistency here is different to the previous one. Okay, so I'm working this in here nice and solid. If you're scared you're going over the line there, then there's two ways. You can stick some masking tape. The other one is just grab a painting knife and use that as a little impromptu mask over here. Because we do want to make sure that this now comes right up to the edge, Same over there. And that way you don't have to panic so much that you're going to go over the edge. Okay, let's go this one over here. So he's also got that a little bit where you can see the bottom. So I think what I'm going to do with him is I'm going to actually just put this piece of paper down there as a quick little mask. Because the bottom of this has got nice white texture on it. Like that. But this little front piece here doesn't. There's a gap there. Yeah, the paper works quite well. So you're never going to get these lines looking identical to the ones on the aloe, and that's fine. As long as you get them similar, you're fine. Alrighty, can you see how harsh these ones look? But these ones are now already a lot softer because they've dried down. You have to kind of just trust the process on these, on this. there. I think we'll use the white because over here it was quite prominent, so I'm actually going to put down a nice solid layer over there initially. You can see the minute I do that, it looks like sun. And it becomes less and more stripy over there, like that. It's quite a weird little process this, eh? There on this edge is also a fair amount of light over there. So I'm putting down, but not quite as much as on the left-hand side. I'm getting it right up to the edge because that's helping that rounding off like this. Okay, so I'm just checking where do I have lots, where do I have little. And I'm doing something similar. We said this guy over here, he was pointing upwards, so he's going to eventually end up in the light over there like that. Yeah, I think we can add a little bit of texture onto this guy as well, because we never did come back in and texture him, so we'll just texture him with this. So I'm going to add some more on the outside and less on the inside. And that'll give him that rounded look. That's over there. Right, so this guy over here, I think you can go just a little bit yellower. So I'm going to take some of this into there. So just a more yellower version. It's a little bit dry, so it's not making nice stripes. So I'll add a little bit more water to it. It's a bit lighter than the photograph. That's fine. It'll give us a nice sunny look on that guy. So now let's say for example, you're not happy with all that yellow you've added there. You think you've overdone it. Don't panic. Clean the brush. All's not lost. You don't have to throw your painting away. And then just come back in with the color that you want there. Let's say for example some of this. Just add more stripes. Using the color that you want. See there? Easy peasy. Not a problem. Okay, so I do want this color. So I'm going to go back to him. Yeah, that's fine. Now we've got those nice little brighter corners over there, or edges. Okay, so now we can add just some glazes into areas like this, because you've got the stripiness, but the stripiness, the tonal value doesn't work for the area, right? So what you're going to do is go over to your shadow color that you did use there. So let's say we've taken this color over here. I can feel my paint's thickening up again, so that's time to give it a good spray. So now you're just going to take a brush. No, it was the darker one. And you're just going to very gently glaze over that. So you can still see the stripiness, but it's now not as prominent anymore. So then you've got a detail in some of your shadows. And while I'm busy with this, now I'm going to start adding, high detail. For example, can you see in the shadow over here? Let me zoom well in on that for you. You've got these little points. So you can actually, inside the shadow, you're seeing some of these little thorn details. So that's what you're going to do now, is you're going to add in these kind of details at the same time into those shadows of yours. So first the glaze, and then the details. Okay, and zoom back out again. So I'm just checking all my dark areas. Where do I have the texture that's a little bit too dark? And I'm adding glazes over them. For example, over here, this texture needs to go darker and darker towards the inside. So I'm adding glazes over them. More here, so that the detail gradually just sort of disappears on you. It's almost like you're doing a shading, but using glazes. So lots of glaze here, less as you go up and out as it gets to the sunny areas. Right, so can you see here? And these areas where we added these glazes and the lines and stuff in, they aren't anywhere near as harsh as what they were when you initially put them down, eh? But like, look over here, you can see that sun shining on these guys now as a result. Alright, so I'm just checking to see if there's other little places. Not really seeing too much. That there is now a little bit harsh. So I'm going to take some of this and glaze it over that. And that just softens that way up again. See there. Okay, now you need a fine liner. So that's where a guy like this would come in nicely. Because now we're going to start working on the edging of these guys. So I'll just start at a point. No pun intended. Okay, so I'm going to start at the back here maybe. And then I'll just work my way this way so that I'm not working over wet paint. So I can see the edge. The edge itself has got that extra brightness to it. It's just lighter. So let's try this brush, and if it doesn't work, then we'll go over to the rigger. And I'm going to add that edge in there. And I'm going to add it a little bit brighter than what I see it, because I know he's going to darken up as he dries. Here you can see that it's not a straight line. It sort of curves like this, like a bow. And at the top of the bow, that's where the thorn is. So these thorns aren't spaced the same distance away either. So sometimes you give it a little short bow, sometimes you give it a longer bow. Okay, so over here we're starting to get less sun, so I'm going to go for darker colors. On these bows. But not too dark. Remember, it's not going to... These colors are going to darken up as they dry. Yeah, it's all around there, and then things just sort of go out of focus. So it's now really, when you're doing this edging and stuff, when things really come to life, because you've got... what you're doing is you're showing the separation. For example, here you can't necessarily see where the front and the back of the leaf is. But the minute you put this in, then it's obvious. Where's the top? And don't put these lines in too thin, because then they just disappear. They just disappear on you. So here I'm just adding some kind of quite low contrasty things, just to suggest some of that detail. Yeah, I think almost even just that one is enough there. There was quite a bit of white. Let's maybe take some white. Just wash the brush. I'll just take some white. Around here. Yeah, let's work that in, why not? So I'm going to come up to the edge of this guy. And just working some white over that. So what's going to happen is I'm working it right up to the edge over there. Because we're going to put it in almost like in a bit of a shading, because all this stuff here is now out of focus. So I'm coming right up to that edge that we created for ourselves. Then as I go up, I'm going to fade it away. You can even just use your finger just to tap over it like that. Just to make that fade away. Let's just give it a little bit of a stripy effect. We don't want it to look like clouds. There we go. Okay, so that's fine there for now. Let's go back out. Alright, let's work on this guy over here. So what I do is I just try and judge roughly those distances between the different thorns to get a feel for that, because it does help for the perspective. For example, when you're looking across something like the leaf over here, they're going to appear further apart. So I'll demonstrate that in a second. But when you're looking down something, they're going to appear closer to each other. Where's that paper of ours with the lines on it? He's perfect for that. So you see, now we're looking across. So each of these lines is a thorn. We're looking across it, they appear further apart. But when we're looking down it like that, can you see they appear a lot closer to each other? Further apart, closer to each other. For example, here we're looking across it, but then he curls like that and we start looking down it. So here, that's why they're a lot closer to each other. Okay, so here I'm going to gradually start reducing these guys, but still at random distances. Okay, and over here we can't really see that edge too much anymore, so I'm making that line thinner as well. So that it's not as bright. Everything over here just gradually sort of becomes less and less prominent. Next one. Nice long distances, because we're looking along its long edge, side on. Yeah, I think a rigger brush should work really well over here. Definitely. Alrighty, so here, this guy's now also changing angle. So take a look at how these the thorns themselves, there they're pointing up. Here they're starting to point towards the side. I'll get a bit of an angle, and then gradually they're going to start even pointing downwards. So you've got to look for that, because all these little angle changes and things is what tells you how you're looking at each of these leaves, or each section of these leaves. And now look there, now that I've put this in, suddenly that makes sense, eh? Alright, where are we at? Here at the bottom. Turn this over here. So this line is just above that little dark edge that we added over there. So that's telling us here we can see mostly the top, but just a little bit of the bottom. Is everything coming together now? Can you see the definition just popping out, eh? Now that we're adding these in. Quite amazing. Like I say, a lot of the times these things you've got to just trust the process. Let's make these thorns a bit bigger than nice big ones. Like that. Okay, before I go over there, let's go over here. Okay, as we go down there, things are gradually going into shadow, so I can't keep using that highlight color. So I've got to go down to a darker version. Otherwise we're adding too much sunlight into areas there that are in shadow. And that's just going to look odd. So here's an interesting one. This guy's obviously still coming out. He's busy opening. And that's with those other little marks that we had earlier. That we actually still need to put in. That we spotted them earlier. That's what it is. It's when the one leaf is touching the other leaf. So let's work that in. That looks cool. I like that. That's an extra a little bit of detail there. there, and then from here is going darker and darker. So I'll gradually start using other greens. And darker greens, just so that it gradually disappears. And becomes less prominent. And also seeing just a little bit of a darker tonal value right next to that. And that's just going to separate those two from each other. Just that little bit of tonal value difference there. Nothing too hectic. Just a light little glaze. Okay, we're next in that corner over there, but that's not this white that we've been using, it's more of this green color. Yeah, it's sort of an in-between color, eh? This one's got nice long thorns. Yeah. Let's see. There's thorns over here. Not quite as prominent, so I'm just using that little bit of paint that's left on the brush. I'll just do like little suggestions. Alrighty, so we've gone all the way around. What do we need to add? Just this guy. Cool bananas. Nearly done, man. This is great. Okay, so let's get these thorns in over here. Yeah, they're brighter again. Okay, let's take on this side. Can't really see too much over there. Just here where it starts coming out, we'll start adding. So again, just keep checking those different angles. And the colors, they're getting darker towards the back. And out of focus. Does it make any difference if leaves are painted from the base to the tip or vice versa? No, I don't think so. As long as you get your shading right along the length, you aim for a way. Guys, I just want to... I didn't quite get the shape of those guys looking that good, so I just want to work a little bit more on that. They're now bothering me, and if something bothers you, you have to fix it. There we go, that's better. At least now they're going from thin to broad. Okay, so for those tips, we're going to take some orange. It's quite unusual to have a new color so late in the game, eh? So I'm going to take some yellow, and I'm going to add some orange to it. Do you want a nice bright orange, in other words? Let's get some water in there so that it's nice and flowing, this color. And you can pick up the paint to get yourself a nice chisel point there as well. And now you start adding these guys in. Now remember, each of these are a different size. And they also point in sort of different directions as well. Okay, all those guys over there are dark. So what's happening with each of these little thorns? Let me zoom well into that. Can you see there? Each one has a little shading. Let's see where we can see it the best. Here. Here you can see it the best. You've got, goes from almost white to an orange, and then to a reddy kind of burnt sienna color. You can even, looking at it so close up, I think you can even use like a crimson would work well for that. So what we're adding now at this stage is the lighter bits. You can maybe think of it as the base of the thorn itself. Those ones are there, but they're dark, so we're not seeing that base. And then there where we add that light, we're going to add these little thorns over that. So that there is now going to just look like something in the back. We're not sure what, and that's perfect. That's exactly the way we want it. Right, so as you go along, what I do like to do is just check, just do little spot checks of your colors and stuff. But in general, you're going to get to a point where you know what you're doing. You've done a few of these things, so then it becomes repetitive. So then you just pretty much do your own thing. Just keep varying the colors, the sizes, the tonal values, the directions, and so on. here at the bottom, there's a little bit of another leaf over there, so I'm just suggesting some thorns on him. Same as over here. So these guys further away, don't add as much detail to them, just sort of put down a fuzzy, almost out of focus kind of color. In other words, like a glaze. So it's not a solid color over there. But these guys on top, yeah, no, lay down the color. Put good, decent dollops of color down there. Hey, where can we go now? Over here. Yeah, one or two of these guys are starting to get their color, so just suggest them. Not too much over here. I can see there's not too much color over there. Alrighty. Same over here. I often just put down the paint like that and just use my finger, and that wipes off that excess. That makes it look quite subtle. There it goes, and this one is quite big, so I'm going to make them bigger than the rest. Just for some variety. Okay, now we can wash the brush and go over to the burnt sienna. So the burnt sienna is now just the very tips of these guys. So make sure you get that tip nice and sharp. Yeah, I think I'll make one or two of these a little bit bigger. Just a little bit more ominous looking. Why not? These guys here don't have too many of these little dark tips, so I'll leave them. Alrighty, so the end is now well and truly in sight here, eh? Yeah, I think those little pops of red just gives you that contrasting color, eh? It really makes it stand out quite nicely. So what you'd ideally want to do at this stage is just stand back and see if there's anywhere that you've missed. I can see here's just a little bit of detail. Oh yes, we didn't add those little other details in there. Let's do it. So let's go back to here. That closer up area, so we can see. Can you see there? You got that, just that little bit of detail. I mean, it's only going to take a few seconds to put it in, so we may as well do it. So let's see, for this petal over here, I think I'll start off with a sap green and see what it looks like. Maybe just a tiny touch of the darker guy into it. Tiny touch. But sometimes little details like this, even though they only take a few seconds, see, it's not standing out, so I'll go for a darker version. It's those little things like this that add that extra, just that touch extra realism that you want. There are little dots and things as well, which you can tap them into. It just depends how realistic do you now want to go. If you want to add such little details in as well, if you want to. I don't think we're going to bother with those kind of things yet today. See this guy over here, but he's now not quite as dark, so let's go to a sap green on him. I think the trick with this is not to give it too much contrast. It must be strategically over one of those little light bits. That's the secret to getting this looking correct. Let's go to the lighter one, the white. Let's do something similar to what we did over here on this area over here. So you've just got that white. Yeah, so I'm roughly just copying what I'm seeing. So what this is you've got little areas where the thorn was from the previous guy. It's also left a bit of an imprint over there. Yeah, that's good enough. Same as over there. He's got that little bit of a contrast next to it to make that stand out. So then you can really see where those thorns were. Okay, enough playing. Let's call it a day on this guy. Let's stand back and see what he looks like. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Can you see how nice the sun has come up on these areas? And look at the nice detail and texture that you've got from the stripes. I think if anything there, I could have gone even a little bit lighter. He's darkened up on me. Initially it looked quite bright, but I think those two edges could have gone a little bit lighter. But it's light, dark, light, and that's making him look round like this. And this guy's light, dark, dark, making him look round like that. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. If you did enjoy that, go and take a look at my website. On the screen below, you can see the website address. I have tons more classes just like this one for you at a incredibly good price. And for one small price a month, you get access to literally hundreds of classes. There's acrylic, oil, watercolor, pastel, pencil drawing, even unknown stuff like scratchboarding. So there's classes and there's courses for you to go and follow over there. The link is below. Guys, thank you very much for joining me in the class today. Take care. Good luck with your aloe. I'll see you next time. Guys, thanks for joining me in the live class. I really enjoyed that. There was tons of fun, wasn't it? See you guys. Next week we are drawing. Let's see, what are we drawing? We are drawing a snowman. Yeah, it's nearly Christmas. What the hell? Let's get into the Christmas spirit. It's a nice little snowman drawing there. I think you're going to enjoy it. It's not a dinky drawing though. It's going to be quite a lot of tricks and techniques to get that done. So go and take a look at that. That'll be over on my drawing channel. So let me paste in the link to that for you. That's the one over there. And then if you want to go and become a patron, I think anybody that's here that will agree with you, it's well worth it. There's the link for that to go and become a patron as well. Alrighty, yeah, I think that's it. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next time.